The late 70s was the boom of science fiction thanks to Star Wars. Many companies wanted to greenlight anything they could come up with. This is how Star Trek the Motion Picture, Alien, and Disney's Black Hole that was in development hell came to be. The film has a long history behind it. In the mid-70s, it originally was intended to be a disaster film, running off the popular movies like The Towering Inferno and Poseidon Adventure. It got 3 or 4 rewrites over the years, but when Star Wars came out in 77, the movie got changed again. It took inspirations from that, Lost in Space, and 2001: A Space Odyssey. With Star Wars pioneering visual effects, they stepped up their game to make one of the strangest science fiction movies of the decade. Black Hole needs a certain taste to enjoy, much like 2001. It unfortunately ended up being a box office disappointment for Disney. It made its money back, but barely. The story is about a crew on the USS Palomino returning home to Earth when they stumble on the largest black hole they've ever seen, with the ship at a stationary position near the event horizon, somehow able to withstand the forces of gravity pulling on it. The Palomino has 6 crew members. The movie doesn't go into too much detail on most of them. Captain Dan Holland, traditional character, serious, by the book, very cautious, will die to save his crew.
Communication problems aside, he took an awful long time to show any lights. Be careful.
I know.
First Officer Charlie Pizer, the Han Solo guy, quick to respond, man of action, but does like to explore the universe. Harry Booth, the civilian crew member. He works for a newspaper documenting their trip around space. Not a scientist, but does understand ship systems, can pilot if needed, but he's not reliable and under stress. Thinks about only himself and gains for the paper.
Well, it's about time. How close can we cut it?
Dr. Alex Durant, one of the main science officers, the guy wants to learn about everything, no matter the danger, tends to not think rationally. If a major scientific breakthrough is knocking at his doorstep, he'll go after it at all costs, makes him potentially dangerous.
I'm beginning to feel you want to go with him.
I do. I do.
Along with a second scientist, Dr. Kate McCrae, intelligent, following in her father's footsteps of exploring in space, also has ESP abilities allowing her to communicate and feel emotions over long distances with her ship robot, Vincent.
They're people, Alex. I know it. I feel it.
Standing for vital information necessary centralized. He basically is the ship's backup officer, able to navigate, access ship systems, do repair work in hazardous areas. He's an amalgamation of many robots, B9 from Lost in Space, R2-D2, and of course C-3PO.
Vincent, were you programmed to bug me?
No, sir, to educate you.
Vincent is also the most fleshed out of the main characters. He loves to quote proverbs.
Nice work, Vincent.
Out of the frying pan, hopefully not into the fire.
Lighten the mood when he can, pokes some fun at his friends, protects his crew, and is a little stuck up.
I don't mean to sound superior, but I hate the company of robots.
But can be a scaredy cat. Batman fans will recognize his voice from other roles as the Bookworm and Jervis, aka the Mad Hatter. His abilities are flight, able to pick up at least one human, magnetic locks that extend from his lower body, manipulating arms, magnetic grapple cable with 2 retractable laser mounts for offense. His body is able to withstand extreme environments from space to freezing conditions and physical damage from weapons fire, shocks, or impacts. He can also rotate his head in all directions and lower it into his body for protection. Vincent would be the thing you'd remember the most. They identify the ship near the black hole as the lost USS Cygnus. It went missing for 25 years. Wondering how the ship is able to withstand the force of gravity, they went in to investigate. While the movie failed in the box office, it did not fail in its design and visual effects. They took an effort in making it have its own look. It's not Star Trek or Star Wars. It's very lived in. The ships show their age and aren't pretty. No fancy shielding or battle armor. The Palomino looks like something we could use today. While the Cygnus looks impressive and has a similar shape to a Star Destroyer, it has an industrial feel, protruding pipes, glass, and metal frames. It's more Earth building than spaceship. While it has amazing visual effects, its story was pretty basic, slow, and ridiculous in some cases. It relies heavily on melodrama and mystery, most of the time talking and explaining while also not giving much towards the main crew. They focused on too few characters, with an ending that comes out of nowhere. Narrowly escaping the pull of the black hole and almost losing Vincent, the Palomino sustained heavy damage to its oxygen system. The Cygnus powered up and allowed them to dock, finding out that the captain, Dr. Hans Reinhardt, is still alive with his crew all dead.
You shame yourself!
The Cygnus is the weakest part of the movie. It relies on it being cool and stuff that the captain is hiding from the crew. The mystery isn't really interesting. They even tie in Kate to the Cygnus with her father serving on the ship, but without getting to really know the characters, you don't get a chance to be invested in them. Oh, we just learned this detail about Kate. Now let's move on to something cooler. Here's Maximilian. I guess you would call him Reinhardt's first officer. The robot never speaks and treats everyone as hostile. You can see it's designed after Darth Vader. The movie has the same problem Star Trek the Motion Picture did. The series became a movie, they got top-of-the-line visual effects, so they focused on the ship, focused on the problems with the ship. The characters didn't get a chance to breathe. Pizer is the worst used character. Most of the time he's stuck in the ship, barely gets to talk. Reinhardt, he's pretty cliche, the man who tries to play up he's heroic, told his crew to abandon the ship, he stayed behind with his robots. You know he's lying right from the start.
They didn't make it back? Pity.
Most of the characters are not buying it, but then you have Dr. Durant falling in love with this guy just because he understands how to deal with the black hole's gravity.
So much for the friendship theory.
Come on, Harry, they could have killed us if they'd wanted to.
It's so dumb when the humans don't feel human, but robots somehow feel more human than them. Vincent, while getting the ship repaired, finds another model robot from his line called Bob, Biosanitation Battalion. He's been beat up by the Reinhardt security bots, so Vincent teaches them a lesson by whipping their best in the laser fight. You might as well had gotten rid of Pizer. Vincent fills in that role. This opens up Bob to spill the truth. The robots in the black cloaks are not real robots. They are actually his crew. He brainwashed them, basically lobotomizing them into submission. The movie is pretty good at trying to give explanations to plot issues, like Vincent has to charge his laser guns when he challenges the Star Robot, showing he's disabled in the ship. But Kate, who has ESP, should have been able to realize the crew was on board. Kate's ESP is limited, but it works with Vincent. She should be able to detect that they're humans from the lack of being able to detect they're robots.
I know it. I feel it.
Another thing that really bugged me, Reinhardt has been working on the Cygnus and the black hole gravity generator for decades. It's his baby. He sent a probe into the edge of the black hole so he can get to know the power, precise calculations, because he plans to fly right into the black hole just to see what's on the other side. He powers up the Cygnus to avoid the ship taking potential damage from the Palomino at the start of the film. All this preparation, all that caution to just be thrown out when he goes for it, and a meteor storm gets sucked in with the Cygnus. Not to mention the Palomino crashes into the Cygnus when Reinhardt fires at it, causing massive amounts of damage around and inside the ship before he even gets there. You can say he's insane, but he's not going to make his plan go down the drain like this. He's not on a time schedule. The movie just goes to hell because the ending has to be epic.
We are going through!
Stupidity is not a right.
They just had to do one tweak, have the meteors be already in the event horizon and hit the ship, not pull them in at the same time he goes in. If you're here for mostly accurate science with this film, you're gonna be disappointed. Some areas they do good. The Palomino has no gravity, so they float around. The ships look like they would function in space. The Cygnus has a huge garden for the ship's crew, but when they enter the black hole, all this gets thrown out the door. The destruction of the Cygnus is impressive with the amount of work they put into it, but the way the characters survive is ridiculous, to put it lightly. Booth was killed when he bailed on the crew getting the Palomino shot down. Durant died when Kate took off the face mask of the crew. The rest of them, with Bob, rescue Kate, get caught in a firefight with the Starbots, beat them, cool. But then the meteor shower starts. Areas are getting hit, meteors are crashing into the ship, causing decompression. They even have an Indiana Jones moment. I wouldn't be surprised they got the Boulder idea from this film. The transport tubes on the ship were damaged, and they just hop off the vehicle like Leia flying back into the ship in The Last Jedi, ignoring the bridge is exposed to space. Oh, we're just going to ignore people get blown out when we feel like it. That's not even the worst of it. Bob and Vincent save the day when the hydroponic garden is hit. The room is exposed to space. They remember space is freezing and have the bots covered in ice crystals. They even make Bob shake from being frozen. But the humans? Nah, they're all in great shape. Let's grab the robots and get out of the room. With the Palomino destroyed and the Cygnus being crushed, they head for the probe outside the ship. I don't know if they just shot the scene wrong where they meant the ship is being flooded with black hole gases, but basically they look like they're climbing on the outside of the ship. You're confused and amazed at the same time watching the ship be ripped apart. Reinhardt gets his comeuppance. He gets crushed by his computer monitor. As for the ending, I don't know why they went this route. It really confused me, especially when I was a kid. This is what I thought it meant. The black hole somehow had a planet or an environment where Maximilian got trapped in. I also thought Kate's father was the one who turned into Maximilian. The rest of the crew were turned into robots. That's how poor the ending was done, because you're not going to think the movie's going to start using heaven and hell out of nowhere. That's what they were going for. Reinhardt ends up in hell with his crew joining him, fusing with Maximilian so he could suffer as the robot for the rest of time. Then this angelic woman flies through a tunnel to the good guys. I like how they survive. Reinhardt's gravity shield does work. The probe heads into the black hole. They exit on the other side. They even show the other side as a white hole. We just see them approach a planet and a new journey, almost like they were setting up a sequel. Combined with the slow pace, basic bad guy, lack of developed characters, and the laughable space aspects, it's too much of an odd movie to most people. You like the effects, you love Vincent and Bob, but I think the multiple rewrites killed the story. Maybe if they had stayed with what it was supposed to be, it would have been a better film. As a science fiction film, it's a disappointment. I'm not against mixing religious aspects into sci-fi, but throwing them in at the end made no sense. It also makes his crew suffer worse. Reinhardt kills/captures them, lobotomizes them, where they almost have no humanity left, and then the universe does them dirty by having them all in hell with him. I mean, you could say they're in there to make him suffer, but what a way to end. It's not a total waste of a movie. I still suggest watching it. It's just a really big disappointment. I wish they got a sequel. Maybe they could have salvaged the positive aspects and turned it around. It kind of got one in the form of a short-lived 4-issue comic that continued right where the film ended. They met some aliens around the planet they were headed. The potential was there. The characters they came up with were unique, just like the characters in Alien, regular people doing a job in space. Black Hole just tried too hard to be another 2001. Thanks for checking out the video. Subscribe if you want to see more from me. And if you remember a movie or a show that's long been forgotten, good or bad, leave it as a suggestion below. I'm always on the lookout for obscured stuff.